And we're back. It's May 17th, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and it's the Tree Trunk Show. How's it
The
going,
tree
y'all?
trunk.
Say,
We made it, and we're here with Carmilla. We're going to talk about, art and the pursuit of joy and all things tree trunk and all things artistic. So super grateful that you're here with us today. I think my first question would be just how did this fusion happen? How did you come into contact and begin, the journey with tree trunk?
That's a good question. I'm actually not sure like what that looked like on your end, on the tree trunk end, but my manager reached out to me asking if I'd be interested in a new platform that's doing something kind of experimental, and I was really eager to hear what that looked like because I think there's a lot of room for innovation in the NFT space, and especially when it's kind of like the artists are the priority, and being able to share work, distribute work in like on a massive scale in a new way. It was like really exciting to me. So I was all in.
I love that. I was about the same for me. There was no manager involved though, but I had the same reaction. I think that's a great kind of transition in the conversation though. As a professional artist, when did a manager become part of, your career? Was that something that needed to happen or someone kind of proposed the idea to you? Like how did that come about?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story and like ties into my beginnings in the NFT space. So I heard about NFTs for the first time at the beginning of last year through Mad Dog Jones. I had been following him for a really long time, and I saw that he was like doing something called NFTs, and I didn't really know what that meant, but I started diving into it deeper. Got really excited about the idea of digital artists having a new way to monetize their work. I had been working as an industrial designer, so I wasn't really focused on my art career at all. But I saw an opportunity. It was like COVID winter. I needed a new hobby. So I dove in. And then a couple weeks later, I was having drinks with a friend of mine. Um, and he said, he's a musician. And he said his manager has started looking for visual artists to represent for NFTs. And actually, the only visual artist that he was representing at that time was Mad Dog Jones. So I got in contact, and thankfully he liked me. He brought me on, and now he's managing a couple other big names as well, like Fuck Render and Beige Victor Mascara. So it's a really good company to be a part of. And
Yeah,
yeah,
Latch is with you as well, right?
and Latch, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we love Latch. That's awesome. That's cool.
I love that. That's a hell of a lineup for them as well. And then, like, just as an artist in general, if we could take it back even further, like, when did your career in art kind of begin? Was it something you've always done, or is this something that began, as an adult?
Yeah, no, I've always been interested in art. My dad was a portrait artist, and so that was always a part of my life growing up. So I'd been working in traditional mediums, kind of on like a hobby basis, but selling my work a little bit as well. I was hesitant to pursue art seriously when I was like thinking about what to do with my career, just because the path to success is so narrow and intimidating in the traditional art world. And so it wasn't really something that I was focused on, but it was always a passion of mine. I went into design instead because it felt like kind of like a more realistic
More of a
pathway.
steady paycheck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, as a professional sellout myself, I totally get it. I was went along the same path in a different field. I was like, oh, I can't make money in it, and I was so stupidly scared as a young person, growing up in the Midwest. All the values were about, you got to get a job, and you're going to starve and be on the street if you don't have, if you don't do these things. And I wish old me was around to tell young me to suck it up and try, a little harder. Um, I think that's something we should talk about with the NFT movement is, how can we change that so that it's lastingly something where you can pursue your art, not sell out, and still make rent. I'd love
Yeah.
to talk more about that.
Yeah. I mean, NFTs totally opened the door for me. That's like when I pivoted towards taking my art career seriously. And I think it's not necessarily that, it's not like I suddenly became a better artist. It's that I found a different path to success, and that there's just like a different way of putting myself out there. And like the community aspect of NFTs is really life-changing, because the traditional art world, especially where I'm from in Vancouver, is very cliquey and competitive. But in the NFT space, we're all like hyping each other up, and we're all exploring this new era together. So there's motivation to like support each other and like really genuinely like invest in each other's work and stuff like that.
Yeah, the community is so great in the Web3 space. And Carmilla, I know you paint as well, and so I was just curious: do you keep like a similar style, or is kind of like the digital art completely separate from your painting style? Or how did you
I'm thinking
transition?
about merging. Yeah, I mean, I love painting. Like, that's what I do when I want to relax, when I want to do something for myself. It's all oil paint. I'm considering doing a project of oil paintings inside of a 3D environment, and then hopefully having an art show where I display the NFTs on the wall of the 3D environments, and then on the other side will be the paintings. But I don't know if it's going to happen yet.
You don't know when it's going to happen yet.
Not sure. I need to do more painting, and I just haven't had the time. So that's time consuming. But one day.
Okay. Along that line, Serena, I thought you were going to ask the question from the treehouse, but as far as it comes to like community and this entrance into Web3, for artists who might be listening to this interview, looking for some advice on their own path, what have been some successes or some lessons you've learned as far as building your own community in NFTs?
That's a good question. Well, so Latch has a Discord server called Temple, and we have recently started DAO as well. But that was the first like really genuine, like tight-knit community that I was a part of. And I just like did not expect to find that in the NFT space. Like when I first entered, I was kind of having a hard time like meeting people. I felt like a lot of my friends who were in the space were already like making these really good connections, and I was a bit slower to it. But I think everyone has their kind of trajectory, and like Discord is not like a place where I had ever felt comfortable before. So just being able to find like those really tight-knit communities, I think is really rare, but so important. And I'm just like really grateful to have found mine. As well, I've been doing some community initiatives here in Vancouver. And that kind of started just because everyone was talking about like, when are we having a meetup? When are we having a meetup? And no one was doing it. No one was setting it up. So I decided to set it up myself. So I threw the first meetup in Vancouver in November, and then that was a success. It was small, but I had like double the turnout that I was expecting. And so we turned it into something bigger along with my management company. They supported me in that, and we all together created NFTBC, which was the biggest event, NFT event in Vancouver so far. So yeah, I think what's like almost as important as finding those tight-knit communities is like taking initiative to start something yourself and like reaching out and making those connections and just making it happen.
That's back. Go ahead, John.
It strikes me that patronage and community or supporting each other. How much of NFTs do you think are about owning and speculating on assets? Obviously, that's driven a lot of growth. That'll bubble out, and literally is bubbling out now. But it always struck me that the news story for the Beeple thing should have been: rich dude supports his favorite artist. That should have been the news, right? Hey, I don't know that the JPEG is worth $69 million, but what was worth $69 million was that guy loved that artist that much. That would have been the story, right? So I wonder if there's these things called POAPs, You can get them, at a lot of blockchain events. It's like proof of attendance. I wonder if the NFT is really just proof of support. like it's like my badge for supporting my favorite artist. I wonder if that's a better or more healthy way of doing it. I almost wonder if it's similar to almost like a Patreon, where it's just a different way of patronizing an artist. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that idea. I was thinking about doing something similar with an airdropped art piece, just like showing my appreciation to collectors or people who have been really supportive of me in the space, not necessarily like giving me their ETH, but supporting me in other ways. So that's really important as well. I think the speculation, like the NFT space, probably wouldn't exist if there wasn't the speculation.
It definitely generates press. Yeah, it's good for exposure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like just the trajectory of the space, because when I started, it was all about those like big name artists who like maybe they didn't even have big names before NFTs, but like the Beatles and Mad Dog Jones, who were like creating one of ones, and like that's kind of what kicked off the boom, that first boom, or that's probably not the first boom, but the boom of the time.
CryptoKitties was definitely the first boom, I think, right?
Right, yeah. But then it moved into like the PFP projects, and like I think we're just like in a different era, but that doesn't mean that the one of one artists before have lost significance. Like I think that is still really important, but we're just like in a different time right now.
Well said. No, totally. And one of the things that I think is a symbol of that new time are DAOs. I think this emergence of DAOs are really kind of signifying this change. You mentioned it briefly. I don't know if you wanted to speak about it, but you said you founded a DAO recently.
Well, I didn't found it, but I'm an active member. It's called Sideways DAO. We're just an art collective, about 40 people, 40, 50, kind of spread out all around the world, but we connected in Latch's server, and now we're doing like cool collaborations, and there's like some really cool stuff coming down the line, but we're kind of keeping it low key at the moment.
I love that. Very cool. Well, we got some embedded alpha in the episode now. There's something to look forward to, y'all. And another thing to look forward to is the piece with TreeTrunk. I would love to talk about this preview piece a little bit. What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, my initial inspiration was just the fact that we couldn't do animations for this one, because most of my NFTs are animations. And so I wanted to do something that was like really impactful and dramatic, but also still image. And so that's when I came up with the idea of like, how do I add movement without actually having movement? And so that's where I decided to like play around with the idea of a cloth and like the clouds. So it kind of came about that way. And then while I was creating it, I was thinking about like how I was using really like rich, opulent kind of colors and imagery. And that tied into the idea of royalties in like kind of like a parallel of the word royalty. And so the piece is called Premonitions of Royalty. And the orb in the center has a reflection. And if you look closely, once the preview is gone, you'll see that's also an Easter egg. That ties into another piece. So there's some layers there. But
are you gonna remove the preview and reissue this on the mainnet when we go live?
I am, yeah.
Sweet. And then the next piece will be the Easter egg for that. Or cool.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what's inside. As well as I just wanted to say, I love the depth that you have in your works, Carmilla. It's just so amazing. I've told you how much I love this work. I know, but it's just truly amazing.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You got the Serena Charngunla vote of approval. That is a seriously important thing.
And you achieved the movement, by the way. That you were saying it's wild. Like it's really cool. I mean, we could spend the rest of the episode talking about it. I see we got Ira on stage now. This is
Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever seen each other in person before. So this is a big moment. The last time we had some technical difficulties, but seriously, Carmilla, that is like, I don't know how you achieved movement in a still image, but you did somehow. It's so sick.
Oh, thank you. That's so satisfying to hear.
The GIFs are available for the new one.
Right. Yes.
Do that.
They are.
And
You
then
can
right
add
after that,
movement.
hopefully MP4s.
That'll be cool. Yeah. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Are we saying GIFs now? Is GIFs out?
I've always said GIF.
Jeff's gifts. I don't know.
I think
Spaces
people
tabs.
choose one or the other.
I got to say that my very first time on this show, I come on. Thank you very much for giving the information for how to come on, Serena. And I see Carmilla artwork. I got to be honest with you. I wasn't thinking the first time I come on would be that pleasant, but thank you very much, Carla. That was a really beautiful work that you've done, and I am a fan of your work, and so I look forward to you coming out on TreeTrunk.
Thank you so much. That means so much. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of the little guy in the OG artist crew, but I appreciate all the love. Thank you.
There are no little guys in the OG artist crew.
Well, I'm the little guy on our team, so.
Also not true.
Definitely not.
It's a lot of humble people, a lot of good people, talented. That's TreeTrunk. That's it.
There you go.
Hey, Ira, you might have a mic thing going on there, by the way. Your connection seems really solid, but your mic seems like it's chopping out. It's not too bad,
All right.
Just so you know.
It's kind of cool, though. You have a bit of like a
cyborg
voice filter.
Little Lauren Bacall sort of choppy thing going on, deep.
All right. Well, we'll see what I could do. I'm basically on a brand new MacBook Pro 16. So we'll see what's going on here.
Ooh, nice.
It's almost too good.
It's too good. It's too good for.
It's got
It's too
6
good for the
microphones, and they're all competing for which voice of mine it wants to hear. So we'll figure that one out.
I love
It's all
that.
good. I think we can live with it.
And Carmilla, do you have any works that are up anywhere right now, or have you had any recent drops where people can check it out?
Yeah, I had a piece drop on Foundation a couple weeks ago, still available. It's called Dawning. And then I have a piece called Matriarchal Guidance, which was a part of Paris Hilton's Sevens exhibition about empowering women. Just still available as well. I think I have one other piece, but I can't remember right now.
There's some cool events at NFT NYC around the same theme, right? Serena, you were talking about that yesterday with us. Did you want to give a shout out to those?
Are you talking about women in NFTs?
Well, there was 2 events that you thought were pretty cool, as I recall.
They're not finalized events yet, but there will be a lot of NFTs.
See, that's why. See how I didn't actually say what they were? I was cleverly not doing that in case I was going to screw up, and I was right.
There will be some awesome women in NFTs events, though. And Carmilla, will you be at NFT NYC?
Yeah, I will.
Awesome. So if anybody wants to meet Carmilla, head on over to the TreeTrunk event because Carmilla will be there.
Which we will be able to tell everybody about fairly shortly. We'll put some announcements out. You know, I wish we could do is we have all these public keys, right? I mean, TreeTrunk is totally just non-custodial, right? So we don't know anything about the people that are on, that are doing these things. We just have public keys. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to just send a message directly to a public key, like if you had sort of Signal integrated with MetaMask, so you could just say, "Hey, I don't know who you are, but you bought something, and you really need to know to come to this event." Hey, MetaMask, put that on the backlog.
Well, peer-to-peer wallet address messaging.
There's 2 things I really want in
doable.
MetaMask.
In fact, not only
I
that.
want my
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Let's be honest, John. All right, it's peer-to-peer wallet addressing. Chat, we're going to build it at some point. We're going to build it. But go ahead, John.
Ira is my older, better-looking brother, as you can see from our speaking cadence being exactly the same, right? So,
Carmilla, I also wanted to ask while you're on here, well, one, how has your experience been with TreeTrunk? But also, I guess, like, what is your favorite feature?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun just kind of watching the way that people interact and like what they're listing my pieces for is like really interesting to see in the beta and kind of curious how that will translate into the mainnet. I think like just the concept overall that collectors can continue like receiving royalties while still holding the NFT, like that in itself is mind blowing. And like obviously no one else is doing that. So that's really exciting, just like the prospect of how that will affect the NFT space overall and like what else that might inspire.
That actually kind of tied into my next question of what opportunities you think TreeTrunk as a platform would open up for artists. I don't know if you wanted to say any more, but
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about like what that could mean for like generative collections or like I don't know. There's just like so much that could be done with NFTs that haven't been done yet, and then like integrating that with like your royalty structure would be really interesting. Yeah, I don't have anything like specific, but I think that there's a lot to come.
I kind of like the idea of as soon as we can, which is the next stage of development, is to be able to say, okay, this part of the family all has blue backgrounds or some attribute that's common to that branch of the tree, right? And this branch of the family tree has got some other attribute that's common to them, right? And so you can have, I think that would promote a lot of collecting across the tree. Say, well, I want this part of the family, but I also want this part of the family, right? So you could see more collecting to say, yeah, I've got Will's family. I'm in Will's family. I'm in Serena's family as well. I've got an Ira, right? But they're all based on Carmilla's Sumantry's original, right? So that would be cool.
Damn, collecting off of collectors and artists, that's pretty wild. That's a cool
Yeah, I
concept.
mean, I think it's a long way off. Not because it's technologically difficult, but because you can imagine the abuses that we'd have to design against if you could have people. You wouldn't want people debasing your work and creating a branch with something horrible on it. So where collectors get to alter the original in some way to make it a branch is, I think, a longer way off, mainly because of humans, not because of technology. It'd be easy technologically. But the artists themselves being able to say either programmatically or custom to say, okay, I want child print number 1 to look this way and 2 to look a little different, and this one, and that you could easily create a tool. In fact, I've got a sister company that is looking at building a tool that would almost like you create a collection today, only it would generate that collection in more of a structured tree-like system.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You could do your layers just like you do in a collection, but now branch 1, all the branch 1 layers 8 backgrounds are blue, right? And so any child of that, everything else can be variable, but they all have blue backgrounds, and only that branch has blue background. So that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would totally change the way that people collect like PFPs. Just being able to like select which branch you like best, or
The other cool thing I think is some of your fellow OG11 artists are into this. They've got coders working with them, or a couple of them are, and they're looking into things like, okay, well, I'm going to change the way of the look of this particular piece on the actual IPFS site, depending on, say, how many branches are below that particular print, right? So you can kind of, there are some tricks to doing that even today under the current technology. You could do that programmatically if you're clever. I mean, you'd have to find a good coder to do it, but it could be done.
Also, speaking of just the technology changing, and it is changing so quickly in the space, Carmilla, how do you keep up with, I guess, like the different trends, as well as because you are also an IRL artist. And so just kind of like going from that to the Web3 space, how do you explain the Web3 space or what you do to people in IRL art?
Yeah, it's
Or do
definitely
you?
a challenge. Yeah, I mostly just tell people that I'm a 3D artist, creating NFTs, and it gets more complicated when I talk about how I'm also a Web3 strategist and a community builder. But yeah, I think it's people are becoming more and more familiar with NFTs, and unfortunately, the conception is that it's like JPEGs of apes is what an NFT is, but there's a lot more to that, and like going through explaining how it has been life-changing for artists, and it's not just this speculative investment thing. I think that's what the challenge is right now. But the people who care and want to support artists will be accepting, and it's kind of ridiculous if somebody is still anti-NFT when they have seen like how it has changed my life and has been such a positive thing to so many artists. So
I just want to make sure that it keeps changing the next artist's lives, because crowding out does happen. And, I mean, Apple App Store, you can make tons if you were one of the first Apple App Store apps on this in the world, you could do Pong and make money. And then it got crowded again. And that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about the TreeTrunk model, or the 4910 model, whether you use TreeTrunk or not. The 4910 model says, hey, you have people that love you. You don't want to be a solo act for moving your work. You want people being incented to move your work with you, right? And I think that's more of a fundamental change than coin go up applied to art. So I worry about, how are you seeing things right now? I mean, last couple of weeks been pretty brutal. From where you sit, what is your hope? What is your fear?
Yeah, it has been a rocky couple of weeks. My hope is that we are using this time to build and like create new innovative ways of selling our art. My fear, I mean, the worst fear is that it all goes to zero.
Well, that happened with Luna, I guess. Sorry, Luna friends. The moon will rise again.
I mean, I think it's going to be somewhere in between and for a little while, and then hopefully, we'll get back up. But it is all uncertain, and I'm kind of just embracing the chaos and enjoying the ride. Like I am not a crypto expert by any means. I didn't know anything about crypto before NFTs came in, so I didn't really know what to expect in terms of like the market fluctuations, but it has been like kind of fun, just like riding it out. And, I'm diversifying the kinds of things that I do and still doing like Web2 IRL work as well. So, I think that's kind of key to maintain some stability, but yeah.
It's like going to Vegas, right? It's like when all of it came down last week, I tweeted something. I got some mixed reviews about it, but it was like, when I go to Vegas and the shooter at a craps table throws a 7, I go, oh yeah, that was inevitably going to happen. And I'm fine. I only brought $300 to Vegas, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's all a gamble.
So what? Hey, I'm sorry. At all. Go ahead. I am burning to ask you, what are your favorite tools? Is it still Maya and Blender and stuff, or what are the tools that you prefer using? I'm just curious.
So I have kind of a unconventional workflow because I was an industrial designer. That's how I got into 3D. And so those are the tools that I am most familiar with, is like CAD software. So I'm still using like SolidWorks, which is a
This is awesome. I studied mechanical engineering and I love SolidWorks.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's probably not efficient technically, but because I'm familiar with it, I can like whip things up pretty quickly. And then I'm using Keyshot to render, which is like typically used for product renders, but I've been kind of hacking it and making it work for animation as well. So that's what I'm using right now. But I also started playing with ZBrush and Cinema 4D and Blender a little bit. But yeah, I'm just like working with what I know right now.
I often read, the bios and such of art when I'm at the Raleigh Museum. Here's a very good museum, and we have a membership, and often they'll talk about the tools that the artist used, and so it'd be interesting to put that in the, these are the tools that you use for the work. I think people would find that quite interesting.
True. Yeah, I'm like uncertain whether that's a selling point or not, just because it's like kind of ridiculous, but kind of fun.
True. Do you usually do artwork in the mornings or at night or in the afternoon? When do you get your inspiration?
I'm definitely a night owl, but like afternoon is my peak for sure.
Okay.
After a couple cups of coffee, after like, I don't know, having some good meals. That's when I'm most productive.
I like that. Afternoon is a good time.
Yeah.
And so I know you're on Twitter Spaces and things like that as well. And with a lot of IRL artists coming into the space, I've been asked kind of like, wow, do I need to do all of those things to be successful in the space? And I was wondering if you had any advice to the artists that are kind of in that mindset. And I know that in Web3 artists have to do so many things, and that's one of the things TreeTrunk is trying to help make better. So just curious if you have any advice there.
Yeah, I think it is very overwhelming when you first enter the space, and it's shifted so much in the time that I've been in the space, so I can't even imagine what it's like now. I think my advice is usually just to educate yourself and immerse yourself in the space as much as possible to begin. Like, don't feel pressured to start like minting work right away, but kind of like watch and see what other people are doing, see what's working for them, what's not, and kind of adapt towards that. But also, I think that people who are entering right now have a like really valuable fresh perspective on the space, and could have like really unique ideas that haven't been explored yet just because they're new. So encouraging them to kind of like follow that path and like, not be afraid to explore and do something different as well. But yeah, I think unfortunately, like being on Twitter 24/7 and doing the Twitter spaces and stuff like that, Discord, it's all really helpful. So you don't have to do it, but I'd recommend it.
Are you able to maintain like a balance while you do these things? Or, because I find myself personally, there is none. But are you able to maintain a balance with it?
I'm getting better at it. It was definitely a struggle for a while, and I was still working a day job through all of last year. So that was difficult. But yeah, I think it's like anything else. The longer that you do something, the more you like learn how to do it better and get into a better flow. So I think I'm just now like a year and a half in finding balance. But yeah, it's hard. There's a lot going on all the time, and the FOMO is real, but you just kind of have to fight it and realize that there's a lot more to the world, to life than NFTs.
Oh yeah,
Not experience at all.
Speaking of balance, we know that you're a professional and you've got a shot clock, and we want to respect it. So we'll let you go.
Okay.
But man, it's so fun to see you. And I didn't get to ask you a question, but I won't. But we'll catch you on when we do the setup for the NFTs. But want to get your advice for other artists at some point about what kind of shape to your tree you're thinking about doing. But we'll ask that for another time. Are you going to do like a big wide tree, or are you going to do a narrow one? But those are questions for another day.
Yeah, sounds good. No, I'll do some thinking about that in the meantime.
Right on.
Sure. Thank you so much, Carmilla. It was so great to have you on. And I just real quick before you go, here's Carmilla's work. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This has been fun. So good morning.
Of course.
See you, Carmilla. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a show. That was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best. I never thought, when we were. I'll be honest. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this or not, or if I'm going to pay for it later. But I'm going to be honest and say that when we were starting the TreeTrunk stuff, Andreas and I, to us, it was an interesting puzzle, right? We were trying to figure out how to apply zero knowledge cryptography in a way that was interesting, and applying that to NFTs just seemed like an interesting puzzle. But then life starts happening, and you go down this rabbit hole, and you run into all these remarkable people. Ira was on, life-changing events. Serena and Ken Charmgundla as well, just remarkable people, and then all these artists, and you start to care about them, which I did not. I mean, I was not thinking about that. And now I'm in trouble because I care about these people now. I don't know what to do with that.
I love that you see that as trouble.
Well, I'm working on my old man routine. Get off my lawn.
Hey, speaking of which, I have a question for you. So, as we get into the tech updates and wrap up today, there's a generation that you reference frequently when we do the show, which is the fourth generation. Can you talk about that significance to you and why they're a point of reference?
Well, the fourth generation, people have to see what the TreeTrunk is. I mean, it's actually named after two things. People will find this footage later. TreeTrunk was not named for these royalty trees. It was named for Merkle trees. We were working on Merkle trees, and Merkle tree is a mathematical construct, and blah blah blah. Go look up Merkle trees; they're important. But with the tree-like structure of royalties, right? You say, well, I have a print, and that gives me the right to make copies and distribute them and sell them and make royalties from them, right? And so on. And we limit that to 4 generations because we don't want bad guys doing pyramid schemes with that particular, at least not with our instance of the 4910 EIP 4910. Which is a standard based on the ERC 721 standard that most NFTs use today. And hopefully in the next year or so, many NFTs will use the 4910 standard, which is an evolution of the 721. And you still will use 721s. There's no reason not to for some use cases, but I kind of think of 4910 as maybe, because they're fundamentally more viral, they're maybe more like the Omicron to the 721's Delta. Probably too soon for that joke, but so when you're looking at the tree, we limit it to 4 so that you don't get into pyramid schemes and multi-level marketing and stuff like that. It would be an uninteresting structure for people that are interested in exploiting people that way. But putting an artist at the top of a titration of royalties going up to them from many sources, that's an awesome idea. I'll stand behind that every day. But we limited it to 4, and actually it was Ira's idea to do that because he's a good lawyer. And in doing that, it suddenly struck us that there's another benefit, which is you can't make any more prints after generation 4. That fundamentally generates digital inclusion or financial inclusion because they're going to be, I should think, less expensive than a first gen because there's only 10 of those. Maximum 10 if the artist even allows for there to be 10. They might allow for only 1. There might be 5. And that's what I was talking about with Carmilla earlier about what kind of shape of the tree. Is she going to have 10? Is she going to allow 10 first gens and each of them to do 10 and each of them to do 10? That's about 11,000 prints, a little over. Or is she going to allow only, you could do just one of one. You could say 1 generation, only 1 print. Still probably better than a 721 and because you're going to get royalties, instantly and irrevocably on chain, which you can't do with a 721. But you know, that would be I'd like to see that use case. But for my taste, I would want to do 10, 10, 10, 10 all the way down, so that all those people can have the most flexibility about what they want to do with their franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the bottom, you have people that just love the work and want to be part of that. Right. So that might be a $25 print, $50 print, maybe 100, maybe 300, but less expensive than the ones up top.
To that point, are collectors going to be able to make physical prints? Is that going to be like an option that artists can check a box on, or is there a way that people can?
I don't see why not. I mean, it's not fundamental to what we're building, but it would.
Right.
I mean, yeah, as an artist, you totally could do that. You could have a physical print, a physical piece of work in a gallery, and the person comes in and scans the code, buys the print. They bought the NFT, and then you hand them the actual physical piece.
They could
walk
buy
right out of the store.
They could buy one of the branches of a tree off of a physical piece. That's pretty gnarly.
Well, I think more importantly, I don't even know that they would realize what they're doing with that. They're just simply scanning it's like, I want that piece of art on the wall there. Oh, great. Scan that code. And MetaMask. Oh, okay. I have to learn how to do that. But maybe, in the future, people will just do that. But yeah, they're just buying the piece, and the NFT on the, on the blockchain is simply an agreement that says that you own that piece.
Wild. How are we looking? What's going on with the tech updates? Any news for us today?
I think next week we'll be able to show some demos of stuff.
We're doing demos on the show, right?
Huh? Yeah, I'm gonna do some. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Love it.
So we'll be able to do some demos of some things. I don't want to do it this week because I want the.
It's a little too soon.
No, yeah. I could do it. I mean, it's there, but I want to give the engineering team a little more time.
What was it like for the two of you when we did the demo in Denver? Honest. Were you nervous? Were you excited?
I have been, as a young person, 35 years ago, I was used to getting on stage in front of hundreds, thousands of people, because I was in the theater. And before I went to more directing, and then, and then went into tech. That story is basically, the business of theater is actually not very creative, right? If you can afford not to have to make money in the theater or in video game development or all sorts of careers where there's so many people that want to do it and there's so few, it's a tricky economic structure, right? So the business of theater is pretty much the same business over and over again. But the business of business is pretty creative. So I started an advertising agency back in the 80s, and I got excited about different ways of organizing business. And that's what took me this direction. Just for background. But I think that, I think the structure of the NFTs themselves is an interesting reorganization of that sort of thing, of business, right? Of creative art and business together. I suppose it was a kind of an innovation that we said, hey, art is as stock certificate. I guess that's an innovation too. I like it less than what we're doing, but then, to each his own. I think I went on a few tangents there. Sorry.
It's all good. It is. You are not the only one who does it.
I do it a lot more since COVID. I tell you that.
Same. I love the tangent too.
No, the great COVID should be called the great dumbing. Like the world, it's just like it stole a few neurons from everybody. The great dumbing. That should we coin that the great dumbing?
Serena, though, same question. When we got on stage, were you nervous about presenting that live in action?
I think it's always so funny to see what the behind the scenes is and what is actually being shown. But I remember, even one of the last artworks went up earlier that morning. And so I remember we went live. That was like the first time that anybody was looking at it in that setting.
And we had locked it hours before. We were so that was I lost my train of thought, but the punchline was I was terrified, and I got out of the theater partly because I was bored going on stage at that point. Some point in my career in the theater, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go out and sing a song. It's fine. I just wasn't I didn't get that heartbeat going. I was sweating on stage because I didn't know if it was going to work. Because demos never work. And here we are, we're live demo on Web3 with all of these things that just a simple demo usually goes wrong. The demo gods are a thing, and it worked, and it was buttery good. And I got off stage and I went, it worked. Yeah. Never do, live demos, on stage, and it's just never a good idea. And so we did it.
I love it. I love it. I mean, as someone who loves the art of improv and freestyle rapping and just like spontaneous creation, I was like, this is my kind of thing. I'm pretty sure I saw you on the computer checking some things before we went up.
Oh yeah, man. I was checking a lot. And people were like, somebody even asked, is that live? Is that real? And I'm like, yeah, it's real, man. It's real. So is this all the sweat here? That's real.
You're both very professional, though. I'll say to the audience, you did not look stressed. You both look cool, calm, composed.
I was shaking like a leaf.
You know what it was, Will? I saw your jacket and I was like, I'm at peace. That jacket was wonderful, as well as, I was so happy to have met you at Youth Denver. I mean, both of us. But it was just such a blessing.
That wearing that on a stage, I was stressed. First of all, I was hot. It was hot wearing that. I wasn't prepared for it, but I was I wanted to make sure I was representing well. I like to be eccentric, but I look like a medieval prince walking up with you guys.
It was awesome. It was epic. It was epic. That's another life-changing event, meeting you.
Oh, that's so. The feeling is mutual, and I'm super grateful that it is, because it's been. I was talking about it with someone the other day. The kind of the woes that I have, or the criticisms that I have of the community that we're a part of, like, are not represented in what you are building with TreeTrunk. Like the profiteering that is occurring and at the expense of others is kind of being addressed with this.
Well, no, we should be clear on this. Just for intellectual honesty sake, and on the record. Yeah, technology is an amoral thing. You can use it for good. You can use it for evil. All these things. I mean, 4910 is not. There's nothing. We didn't write code that said "Thou shalt be good." You can use it for bad things. We did do things on our instance of it, like limiting the number of generations. But a good coder could go in and take the 4910 pattern and implement one that was multi-level marketing, or in a bad way, they could do all sorts of bad things. Some of the finest people in terms of ethics and caring about the future of humanity are in like Ethereum, Vitalik and Joe Lubin and people like that, and many others. I'm leaving out some notable names there. And I think everybody that I know that was in the early days of Ethereum had good intentions. They may have different political philosophies. Some are more libertarian, some are more not the other way. It doesn't matter. They all intended well.
Mm-hmm.
They're all people of good intent.
Right.
But they built a thing that can be used to perpetrate great harm, just like everything else. It would be inappropriate for us to, or just unwise for us to claim that what we're doing is any different. Right. Now, how we use it that's our choice. Right. So on the TreeTrunk platform, I can put a line that says, if you're a bad guy stealing something from somebody else, better not, because you're not welcome here, and we will joyously find a way to bring you in. However, Ira's going to write the legally correct language there for the site. But
that's kind of what I was alluding to, and I appreciate the correction there, because it's right. But it's the idea that you're using it with intention to do good, versus how some people use these technologies, and that's it goes without saying, but it's needed, because we don't want to see people getting hurt for participating in an art economy. Like we want that to be something that people are excited about, and not having these horrible, experiences with, where people are getting their art taken down, or, losing money because they put it into a project that has like, bad actors involved in it. It's
yeah. I spent a lot of years in innovation, technical innovation, and R&D labs and stuff. And there's this weird focus on patents, right, or inventions. And inventions are kind of like the nouns of innovation, right? An invention, here's my pencil, I can patent it, I can show it to you, I can, it's pointy on one end, it's got a little eraser thing on the other, it's made out of wood, I can describe it. And then I can write something boring with it. I could write something interesting with it, or I could shove it in your eye, and now it's a disruptive innovation, right? So, but the intention is the action verb of innovation, and the invention is the noun. So the 4910 is a noun. Now everybody else gets to decide what verbs to apply to it to make sentences. And that'll be really interesting. We've only got we've written one sentence in the story. Somebody else is going to write another one with the same technology.
Wow. We also just generally, in the Web3 space, everybody's so spread out and global that I think, in fostering a community around the art and around the connections and relationships that the artists have with their collectors and people that they might not even know are supporting them. That's so important in the space, and that's something that, at TreeTrunk we're trying to help better as well. But it's all about the artists and their communities.
Speaking to that, I will say one of the things that I think really shows you all's authenticity is the fact that our Treehouse show, our daily Twitter Spaces, is co-hosted by a co-founder. I don't know any other platforms, or, I don't see, no shade to Vitalik. I love the guy. I don't see him co-hosting Spaces, Speaking of which, I don't know if you all saw his post yesterday about the contradictions at the point that he lives at, like the things that he kind of grapples with philosophically. A fascinating thread about just like, the things that he's processing as a human and an innovator. But he's
a really good human. You want me to tell you a story about how this is why I know he's a good human. I was launching Hyperledger in 2016 with all the Hyperledger people. And Hyperledger was, arguably, a competitive thing to Ethereum at the time. It was, a lot of enterprises' idea of like using blockchain as a database was a fool's errand, but it was fun. And Vitalik was so kind. I was in a green room somewhere at Consensus, the Consensus show, which in 2016 was the show to be at. Not Consensus the company, but Consensus the event that happens. I think this year it's happening in Austin.
Austin, right? Yeah.
Early June.
Austin. Yeah, in early June. Yeah, it was in New York before pandemic. And I was going on stage, and I was about to announce there were many people announcing Hyperledger, and I was just one of them. And I said, man, what would be hilarious and cool is if I walked on stage with an Ethereum t-shirt on to announce Hyperledger. And Vitalik looked right, without even blinking, pulls his t-shirt off of his body and gives it to me. And we, and swap shirts. And I'm like, man just literally gave me the shirt off his back. And I still have that shirt. But he's a very kind hearted person, at least in my experience with him.
And from what I've seen of him, I mean, we've never met. Oh, you know what? Okay, I'll share a story. We've never met and had like a conversation like, hey, I'm Will. Hey, I'm Vitalik. I met him at ETH Denver with you all. I was interviewing who I thought was the mascot for ETH Denver, and he was like grunting and mooing at me, the Buffacorn, and it was Vitalik. He was the person in the mascot outfit. So we met, but not official yet. No human sound room yet.
That's funny. That's really
amazing.
Cool. Well,
Full tangent wraparound. Serena, I'm so excited to get back into the Twitter space today. I want to announce who our guest is today. I'll leave the mystery for those to follow. But we do have a TreeTrunk OG joining us tomorrow, so I will tease that for anyone that's listening now. We got some OGs in the Twitter spaces now.
And just want to shout out the OGs real quick: Arabella Proffer, Brandon Bro, Carmilla Sumantry, Crypto Jeweler, Dilek Sezin, Ishita Banerjee, Latch, Logic, Sam Madhu, and Vimal Chandran.
And you can find them all on TreeTrunk.io right now, even though it's on the Polygon testnet. You can see all their art, their previews for the launch, which will happen in June. And you can also find their art in other fine establishments like OpenSea and others. So go buy their work no matter where it is, because it's about the artists. It's not about the platforms.
And you can follow at TreeTrunk NFT.
Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and tune into the Treehouse with Will's Treehouse, actually, tonight.
Smash
at
the
5:30.
like. Smash the likes and hit the smash and all this stuff.
Also, I feel like I've been pointing the wrong direction. Am I? Because it's a mirror, right? I should be pointing this way, or am I pointing right?
I don't think it's mirrored.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm pointing left, right? Left is this way. Oh. All right, we've hit the moment of silliness. Where shall we take a bow, everybody?
Let's do it.
See you next time
Thanks, everyone.
on the Tree Trunk.